Okay, you ready to start? We're going to start soon. Did you get your map? You here for the thing? You might be ready for tonight. It isn't show tonight, but you're taking off?
No, I have a friend.
Okay. Well, just tell me wherever.
My hairdresser already.
Yeah? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Lynn Ampleet, and I'm the gallery director here, and I'm really excited about having Marita back, because she had a show about 4 years ago. Can't get enough of her, so brought her back, and she's going to be talking about her work, and she'll also be talking about her work in there, so we might have to do a little shuffling, but I know you all are up for it. And most of you, do all of you know Marita in some way, or yes? Yes, lots of nods. I can just go through, she's born in Seattle, and a mixed media artist, and she earned her BFA from Tyler School of Art in Temple University. This is all from, hopefully tell me if I'm wrong, and her MFA from San Jose State. And as you see, she works primarily, if not totally, in reclaimed and discarded materials. It's always an adventure to look really close to identify what's there on her, that often center on the human face and figure. Her work has been exhibited nationally and internationally and is held in numerous museums and corporate collections. She's received the Guggenheim Fellowship, an Artist Trust Fellowship, the Poncho Artist of the Year Award, probably more than I have on my list, and she's represented by Traver Gallery. So I'm going to present her. I also just want to thank the Kathy Jenkins Estate. That's the helps fund our free events. We also take donations if you want to offer something for our continued free talks and free events that we do here at VCA. So with that, you're up.
Okay, thanks for coming. So let's see. On this wall is probably work going back to maybe 1999, 2000, 2001, up until the present. And in that room is mainly work that I've been doing in the last couple of years. So I'll start off on this wall, and then we'll kind of flip around and look at what's going on there. So the proportions of my figures, I always have this huge head because my favorite thing to make is the face. And then once I've made the face needs a body or a head. So I take great joy in making faces. And then you've got the bodies. And somebody said, you know, you're doing children a lot. And the reason why I do children is because their proportions is this huge head and this kind of, you know, little body. And so usually I use those proportions. Also in West African art, oftentimes instead of doing the 8 heads high, which is the European way of making a figure, they do something that's 4 heads high, which again, my figures kind of follow those dimensions of 4 heads high. I like faces so much, the proportions of a child will give me more face. If they were adults, they would have littler faces. So children is what I do. So these here, like these two, this one, these two here, these are probably from around 2000, maybe 1999. And they were done for a show in Norway, these two here and these two here. There was a total of about 40 of them. And they were based on this sculpture I saw in Norway of a little child stamping its foot. I guess he was having a temper tantrum or something. I just thought it was great because, you know, it had the proportions that I do so love. So I did all these children's with the little bent legs. The photographs are from a magazine that was called African Report. I don't believe they have that magazine anymore. And they were documenting the war in Rwanda and you know, the displacement of all these children's and orphanages and all. So this is where those faces were coming from. And then, of course, I grab whatever people give me. So what happens is people give me materials, and then the only thing I know is that these materials have to eventually become a person. So for a paintbrush to become hair, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. You know, though a paintbrush could be a skirt, a grass skirt, right? So anyway, so that's kind of how it all goes, is that, you know, you do the face, you do the body, and then you start dressing it up. The glass pieces, like there's a glass piece here and a glass piece here. I got to do a residency at Pilchuck, I want to say in 2006. And it was wonderful. The food was great. I don't know if the food is still great, but the food was great. I was there for 2 or 3 weeks, and I ended up making, you can see in this one, well, I guess in both of them, there are these glass shapes, and it's just the head and the body, and it's just the head and the body. And then, so I made, wow, I think 120 of these glass shapes. And then I painted the faces on. And that's all I did at Pilchuck. So then I brought them all back to my studio in Auburn, and then I started just decorating them and adding the legs. So the legs is fabric, and you know, the legs is fabric. I think fabric and corks over there, because somebody gave me all these corks. So you know, so you just kind of start off with the shape and just, I call it kind of like decorating a Christmas tree. You got a Christmas tree, and then, you know, you decorate it. So I look at it like that for the people. So you can, again, you can see all the different ways that things get decorated. These pieces are probably more recent. This one, this one, this one. I've been giving tons of leather. The big pieces I give to a place in Tacoma called Tinkertopia. If you have materials that you don't want, they're an excellent place. Does anyone know of it, Tinkertopia in Tacoma? They're wonderful. It's a young couple. So they take donations, and so they wouldn't take little pieces of leather. They had no use, but I gave them all my big pieces of leather, so I was left with all those little pieces of leather, so I started stringing them together to make people. My good friend Linda Nino gave me these medals. I'm not even sure we know what they were. But anyway, those were given to me, and I ended up keeping them. But if you look inside this one, you know the little cages on champagne? The champagne cages? I mean, you could send them to the landfill, but they're so intricately made. Why send them to a landfill, right? I mean, if you look at them, there's beautiful workmanship on them. So anyway, the inside of this is full of those little cages. And I'm not even sure what these are. Again, people give me things. This has what I'm currently working on, which is the face. I knew a jeweler. Well, I knew Joe Petrov. Her mother was in her 90s when I met her mother, and her mother was a jeweler, and she had stopped at 93. She said, I think I'm done making jewelry. Joe's mother lived to 103 years old. I am so impressed. But bottom line is, she gave me all her copper, sheets of copper, which is what we're looking at here. And it was about, I would say maybe about 15 sheets of copper, 5 by 8 sheets of copper. And because she wasn't doing jewelry anymore. I think I kept that copper for about 10 years, maybe even longer. No, probably about 10 years since she died at 103. And I finally said, I need to do something with this copper. So I bought this book on African art, and it showed this face. And I know we're used to African art being these wooden masks or whatever, and they're kind of abstract. But this was a very naturalistically done face. And it was that chase and repousse. And that's where you've got this metal, and you start hammering on the back of it, and you bring out the nose, and you bring out the lips and the forehead, and you sink in the eyes or whatever. And I said, okay, I think I'm going to try to do this with this copper that I've been given, and I haven't done anything with it for 10 years. So they wanted you to buy an acetylene torch and Lord, and all these tools, metal tools, daps and hammers and everything. I got a book about how to do it. And I says, no, I'm sure, back in Africa, they didn't have the acetylene torch and all these daps. I said, I'm sure this can be done without all that. So I came up with the idea of throwing it in my fireplace, and I live in a house with 2 big fireplaces, and so I would throw it in the fire, make a big fire, throw it in the fireplace. Because it's copper, it heats up pretty quickly, and then once I would take it out of the fireplace, and then you get a log and you hollow it out in the middle, and then you can beat into it and you can curve it. And then, so I basically did the same process, but instead of using the acetylene torch and Lord knows all the other stuff they wanted me to buy, I'm just using a ball peen hammer, and then the doors. You know how doors have those funny things that the hinge is on? They're round, and it's a round thing with the hinge. I got a bunch of those because somebody gave me a bunch of door hinges. So I use that as the round thing to poke out the nose and the lips and the eyes. And so it's a long process, but in the winter, when I'm making fires anyway, because it's cold as ever, that's when I do this. I don't ever do it in the summer because I'm not making fires in the summer. So every winter I would make these metal faces. And this is what I've been working on now. I finally used up all the metal, all the copper metal. And so I said, oh, I love it. Let me buy it. $22? I said, Lord, I can't do this. Because at this point in my life, I only want to make art out of stuff destined for the landfills or stuff that people are throwing away. I've done it all my life. I don't want to flip up and start buying art supplies at age 70. I have made it this far without buying them. So anyway, so I don't think I'll be doing these copper faces anymore, but I do really enjoy doing that process. So let's see. This is actually an older piece because it's one of the leather faces. Someone who gave me all this thing from a place where they make saddles. I don't know what to call a shop like that, but someplace where they make horse saddles. So she had all this leather, and she gave me this leather, so I ended up, creating faces on the leather. And of course, this is a piece of wood. I thought the wood was so interesting. I decided to just kind of, and I seldom use wood. Wood usually ends up in the fireplace for me. And then we have this tall figure. And this is recent. This is probably 2022, maybe, 2022, 2023, maybe. It was an art fair, so it must have been in 22. You know those things you get socks? Yeah. Seattle Art Museum I used to be a docent there for 20 plus years, so they know me well. And so these are, Renata at the gift shop gives me things that are broken or things that, instead of again going to a dumpster, she knows what I'm up to. So she gave me this bag full of these sock things, and I said, I don't know. But you know, if you do it, they're pants. They became pants or a leotard or something. And someone gave me these salmon cans, and they told me they were very special salmon cans. I'm not sure why they're so special, but they told me they were, so I thought I would give them the respect they needed. And they became the legs. So, and then the face, which again is probably some kind of fabric that I used. I used fabric paint. Someone gave me a bunch of fabric paints, and so I used those a lot. But I do have some oil paints someone gave me. So it's either fabric or oil paints, I'm not sure. So are there any questions about what's going on this wall before I flip to the back room there? Yes?
I was curious about the copper mask here that you were just talking about.
Uh-huh.
If the surface is like it was when you pulled it out of the fire, or did you change it in any way?
This is the way it came out of the fire. But sometimes it gets really, because I'm just throwing them in the fireplace, sometimes it gets really distorted where there's so many patterns and things going on that I looked up how to make the surface kind of all dark, and it said to use vinegar and baking soda and vinegar, or is it baking soda and, I think it's baking soda and vinegar. You mix it and you paint it on there, and you can at least kind of make it all kind of greenish, dark black. So I've done that to a few, but only the ones where it's so spotty that you can't see the features. The pattern is just obliterating the features on the face. Yes?
So when you were at Pilchuck, you said you did 100, 150?
120.
120, my math's bad, 120. So in what amount of time, and then where do you put them all? And when you go back into the, I'm trying to picture your space and time. And
They gave me a studio, a pretty good sized studio. I would say it would be like from the desk here to the wall. And I had tables in it, and I had to do it, meaning it was funny. Pilchuck, they would blow glass for me, but hey, if you want to cast glass, you're on your own. So my assistant also had never cast glass before. So it was funny. She was from Japan. She was wonderful. So we both learned how to do it together, how to cast glass. They did make me a form. So they made me, the head and the shoulder and the stomach. They made it out of metal. But it's like pancake batter. And you're just pouring it into this form. And because there were the two of us, it took no time. In 3 weeks' time, I had 120. Wow. Because it was just pouring. That's all I was doing. I wasn't decorating them. I wasn't painting faces. I was just pouring them.
factory.
And then once I had them all, I took them home. I think it took me probably 2-3 years to decorate all 120. I think I'm down to maybe like, I might have about, maybe 15 of these left. They're gone. I'm happy.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you ever focus on individual details? Like you're inspired, you said Rwanda.
Uh-huh.
Would you ever have the figures be in some way Rwandan or, specific
That's
period,
specific.
specific place, anything that?
Well, I did this piece called 200 Nigerian Girls, but they were kind of not very specific. They were these little, you have one of them. They were just these little meadow girls, and they all looked alike. But it's Nigerian girls. So there were actually 200 of these, okay? And they were installed at the Traver Gallery, they were installed here. I think they were installed up at Shaft Art Center, all 200 of them, but now we're down to, I think, 100 are left. But no, I don't do portraiture, though I have been asked to do a portrait of someone named Reverend McKinney, who used to be at Mount Zion. He's celebrating his 100th, he's deceased, but his daughter wants to celebrate his 100th year if he was alive, so she asked me to do this big portrait of him.
So but how do you go about doing that? That would make me crazy.
I can do portraits,
You can. You
but
really
I
can.
choose not to.
Do you use a facsimile of his face?
Oh, I'm using a photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gave me a bunch of photographs of him, so. Yes?
It looks like your work is a lot of improvisation as you're working. And do you listen to music when you're working?
I don't listen to music usually. My beloved spouse has music running all the time at his home, so at my studio, I keep it really quiet.
Do you have preconceived ideas of which materials, or is it like a playground where you just put everything?
It's like a playground. I have all the materials in vats or piles or baskets. And I know I'm gonna make a person, and I just grab from different baskets and just, go for it from there. And oftentimes I'll make the face, and then I say, okay, this face needs a body. Not very often does it go the other way around, where I'll make a body and then I need to find a face. But sometimes, if I'm given something that's very cool, that already looks like a body, I might say, wow, all I need is arms and legs and a face. But usually it's the face first. But yeah, it is there's no plan. There's no drawing. There's no plan. You just go for it.
Attachments,
Yes.
is it challenging?
My father was an engineer, mechanical engineer. So I've always, making sure things are attached. Not to say that my work won't fall apart, but I don't believe in gluing things. I believe in drilling holes and wiring them together. Because glue will fail. Where if you drill a hole and wire it together, if the wire is strong enough or the cable is strong enough, it's gonna last. And it's even articulated. So I do think about that. And I get upset when some of my artist friends, they make the mixed media sculpture, but they just want to glue it all together. And I want to say, no, it's going to fail and it's going to fall off, and you really should just wire it. And I mean, this is the way things were done traditionally. I think there was a lot of latching and binding together. Yes?
Based on the large piece, was that based on a model, a photograph, just out of your head?
A photograph. I collect photographs of Black people, and I like them to look pensive and serious. So when I see a photograph and this is the look they've got, I save it. And they're usually photographs of children, but sometimes not. But yeah, photographs. And the good thing about this, I'm not trying to make it look like the photograph. Only if you're doing a portrait, and I'm not doing portraits. So the photograph is just a reference point. So I'll work on it until I'm happy with it, not until it actually looks like the photograph. I don't like trying to make things look exactly like the photograph. And this portrait is killing me. I mean, I can do it, but it's not the way I roll. Yes,
This is a horrible question.
go ahead.
What are the artists, or are you inspired by? Who do you connect with? What do you look at, in terms of other art?
I look at African art. African art junkie, and I love traditional African art. And when I see African art that's traditional and done in a naturalistic way, like the Benin bronzes or the Ile Ife face, I get really excited. But, you know, this isn't to say, you know, I don't look at a contemporary. When I was in college, I used to like Joseph Beuys because he was a shaman, right?
A faker, but that's okay.
He was a fake?
A lot of it was all made up.
Oh.
That's what's come out lately. But he's fantastic.
I always saw him as like a shaman or
That's true. I think
and then there was this artist, Magdalena Akbognovich. She was a Polish, sculptor. I knew about her in graduate school. She was amazing. So yeah, there were artists that I said, wow. Okay. Okay, we go to the back. We good? Okay,
So
let's
you guys
flip
wanna turn
around.
your chairs around, or you want to stand up and turn around? You all might want to move this way so you can see inside the shop.
Okay, so yeah, you might want to slide up because these are kind of small and there's a good chance I'll be blocking whatever I'm talking about. But before I started doing the metal faces, I did these clay faces. So here's a clay face here, there's a clay face here, here's a clay face here, here. So Pottery Northwest, and I think Pottery Northwest still exists, and it's just in a different form, gave me a residency. And traditionally, I've always done flat faces. That's just what I did because I didn't have access to clay. So now all of a sudden I have access to clay, and I started doing these 3D clay masks. And I just loved it because all of a sudden it's like I don't just have a flat face, even though when I do a flat face, I try to make it look three-dimensional, but now I actually can do a three-dimensional face. So again, we're back to, I think I made, 50 clay faces in 2 weeks or something like that. So, and then, you know, the faces now need bodies. So the bodies went from these fabric bodies like here, and inside these fabric bodies are bottles that are not recyclable. Like, I don't know why prescription bottles are not recyclable. Is that the case here in Vashon? Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. But anyway, so inside a lot of these face bodies, they're covered up prescription bottles and spools of thread from spools of thread. It's interesting what plastics they'll recycle and what they won't. So that's what's inside these fabric bodies. And then, of course, the metal bodies are just found metal. A lot of times, people ask me what kind of materials I want and collect. And now the interior of my studio or my mother's house is so full that I can only accept materials that can live outside. So I tell people I'll take metal, plastic, because interesting enough, plastic can live outside, though it will decompose, or if it gets too much sunlight, it'll break up. But I take plastic, metal, and glass, because those are things that can live outside. So we've got these metal figures happening here. And again, this one is full of these little ceramic pigs that the Seattle Art Museum gave me. So again, whatever I get, I end up turning into art. This actually goes like this. Maybe it does. Yeah, electrical outlet plug. I was given a bunch of jewelry. There was a person who used to take all kinds of things out of houses before they were demolished. And so he gave me, this is how I ended up with all these spigots and things like that. So these are probably fairly recent. This is an example of the metal face. This was, what do you call it, the music stand. You know, you have a keyboard. Yeah, a friend gave me their keyboard stand. And I said, okay, this could be a person. Why not? I have no idea what this is. I think it's part of a motorcycle, but I'm not sure. This was one of these peepholes from doors, more of this plumbing stuff. Okay, the copper face, bicycle pedals. Okay, it can live outside. That's my only requirement, and it can live outside now. So this is probably, of all the pieces, this is probably the most recent. I'm trying to think. Lipsticks on this one over here, because they're metal. A lot of the lipstick cases are metal, so it works. Even if they're plastic, I think they could work. So any questions about what's going on here? Yes?
Can you tell me what was in the black one? Go ahead and say it. What's in the little ones?
This one here?
Do you want me to say it?
No, that's okay. I was given all these wooden penises. Did anyone notice them? Okay, somebody gave hundreds of them, okay? So I finally used them all up, finally. And then when I got it, I said, aha, lipstick, why not? Okay. Any other? Yes? No welding, copper wire and cords, like computer cords. I take those because they can tie and bind things together, and they're pretty strong. So computer cords, and nobody knows. I think they go to the landfill, right? Nobody's recycling computer cords, right? Yeah. So I use them to bind and tie my art together, and I think they'll last a long time.
Yeah, I grew up with Calder Circus.
Oh, yeah.
I was just wondering, do you ever put your darlings, in relationship to each other, or
Oh, yeah.
things and all that kind of
Yeah, if you come out to my house, the yard is full of, and they're interacting and doing it all together. One's in a circle. One is doing a circle around a tree. There's a mother and her children. So no, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm portraiture, I think, is like doing, what we actually see, but I'm not really doing portraiture. I am after the spirit, or the essence, or the soul. And that's is what I'm thinking about when I make these figures, is their soul, and what animates them. So yeah, which is why I'm not even hung up on portraiture, because I'm after something else anyway. Okay. Yes.
You were just talking about having things that can exist outside, and I know you've done work out in the public realm. Are you still doing it? And what's that like for you? It seems like you're very different kind of.
Yeah. Most of my public work is interior, meaning like Meadowbrook Community Center, Rainier Community Center, Garfield Community. But I did get to do an exterior piece on Jackson and 23rd with Preston Hampton. He helped me. Anyway, so I only have one outdoor sculpture to my name, which is the piece on 23rd and Jackson. But the rest of my pieces are interior, so they are using things like fabric and wood and materials that wouldn't really hold up so well outside.
How's that process been for you?
The public art process, I love it because you can get big. I think, I'm thinking Seattle Central Community College, that piece is 15 by 15 feet. The one at Rainier Community Center is something like 12 by 24 feet. And when I got to do art fair, and Sarah told me I had a 25 by 25 foot footprint, it was like my dreams had come true. I love doing big. I was thinking I was going to get to do something big here, all the way up to the ceiling. But maybe next time. Okay. Maybe next time. Okay. Yes.
It seems like you're so prolific. How do you inventory and keep track of all of these amazing things?
I don't worry about it. I don't. I'm a very trusting soul. And yeah, I do know artists that in fact they know exactly where everything they made is. I don't have the slightest clue. But it's okay. I'm just happy they have homes. I'm just grateful for that. Yes?
I'm just curious on your large footprints. Do you work on the floor, or do you hang it up on the wall, or table, or how do you?
I usually work outside. My studio is my mother's house, which is in a 7-acre forest. And I usually just find a tree or I hang it off the side of the house, which I think goes up to about 15 feet. So yeah, I'm outside for a lot of the big pieces, and they happen in the summer. She has a pretty big living room too. So sometimes I can, stretch out in the living room, yeah.
Just one other question. Have you ever had to take apart something that didn't quite fit what you had originally intended, and then reconstruct it to?
Yeah, everything is so loose. I'm just thinking, I did this piece for a building called Tapestry. It's an apartment building on 12th and Yesler. And they're 2 8-foot-tall children, but then there's this rain that comes from the second story, which makes it 25 feet again. So falling down on them. And I did it in my mother's living room. She has a pretty big living room. But I'm thinking, everything kind of fell into place. I had 2-3 years to make it. So, you're just moving along in slow increments. And even when I made the hands and all, they worked. It was like, is one hand too big? Well, it's okay. Maybe I'm too forgiving.
So how do you transport something like that? You have to disassemble and reassemble?
No, it rolls. Yeah, that's a piece of cake. We just get butcher paper and we roll it up. Without the butcher paper, those little hooks on the sock hangers, they get all, yeah. But by putting butcher paper on it, it keeps it from getting all tangled. And even those pieces I had at art fair, they were kind of collapsible. They were like windsocks. So they could get, I think we did them in, what was that?
Buddha.
Oh, the Buddha piece that the Tacoma Art Museum has? Yeah, that folds up. It's just fabric. It's 60 feet long, but they're quilts. So 60 feet of quilts, and you just fold it back up. And the art fair piece fit in 2 pickup trucks. But it took up 25 by 25 feet, so everything is kind of collapsing. And I think about that. Again, I guess that goes back to the engineering. You want art you can move. And I used to be able to move some, 50 pounds, but I'm maybe. So, you know, I can't go much more than that.
To give you an idea about that piece, she did, I went and picked up these pieces and she just rolled it with the butcher paper and then just rolled it up and we just unrolled it and it totally wasn't tangled. And I got all these pieces with movie blankets in the back of my recipe. So all this stuff came from Auburn and my trip. Just like everything just between laying things down gently, not stacking things on top of each other, and having those sculptures and placing it together. So it's really important.
Yeah, it's not, it can't break. My art cannot break. Even the glass pieces, that cast glass is pretty thick. So.
You use a sewing machine a lot.
I do. I love sewing machines.
And do you pre-sew stuff?
No. No. You just go for it. Yeah. And I can't hand sew because it's too hard on my hands. With sewing machines, you just go for it. But no, I don't pre-do anything. What was that?
Your outfit.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you make it?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, back to this, I sewed clothes when I was in 5th grade. I think I made my first outfit for school, and it never stopped. Just continued.
Well, you look like an artist.
Yeah. It's intentional. Okay. India?
Well, we can, I guess, stick around for a little bit. I have one little question. There's these little white on strings sticking down on that big one, and we cannot figure out what these are. Figure out the soft ones.
Oh, Seattle Curtain. Seattle Curtain was the place that did this tapestry apartment building. So a lot of these supplies came from them. So somebody said those are the things that you would hook curtains on in a hospital. That's what somebody told me. Those little white things. Yes, that's what they told me. I don't know, but but that's where it came from.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.